The Inner Tomb. It was frightening and thrilling, following Robbie to the door of the tally-ho. It seemed as though hidden eyes were out there in the dark of the parking lot, and they were watching us and constructing stories, histories, about what these two boys from Curtis Crane Lutheran Academy might be up to. The tally-ho, as it turned out, was not a vibrant, happening scene at all. It was exactly what Robbie expected. He stood with his hand on the door's pull bar. A sign hung from the metal S-hooks beneath clear plastic suction cups on the inside of the glass. It said, "No persons under 21 allowed." I expected to hear happy music seeping from the door, the sound of laughter and boisterous barroom conversations, but the tally-ho let no such atmosphere leak out from its small, encapsulated world. The place was as quiet as a cemetery in a morning snowfall. Robbie took a deep breath, pulled open the door, and stepped inside. And, like a sedated chihuahua on a jeweled leash, I followed him. I was so nervous, I thought my knees would buckle. My head swam in agitated seas of conflict and confusion. What if people thought we were gay? Why did I care what people thought? What if I really was here? What it was gay? I kissed Robbie, after all. What would she say about us being here? What if someone started hitting on me or Robbie? What if we got in trouble for walking into the place? What if we got beat up again by some assholes like Grant Wallace and his friends? Bobby Breeze was much braver than I could ever be. We stood there, dumb and quiet in the dark alcove just inside the front door of the tally-ho. The place was as tired and mournful as the library at Curtis Crane Lutheran Academy after the masturbation scandal. Nobody so much as turned a glance to the two nervous kids who stood at the door. I hid behind Robbie. The bartender washed glasses. He wore a t-shirt that was too tight. It accentuated the roll of his belly. He was balding and showed a blurring tattoo of Betty Page, blanketed beneath a swirling shrubbery of black hair on his forearm. Two other men sat at the bar. They both appeared to be tired, in their 40s. They stared straight ahead as though watching something other than their own reflections in the mirror behind the bartender. They were separated by 3 bar stools. The closer of the two had dirty hands. He bit his fingernails, too. At the back of the room sat an undersized pool table with worn felt. It was tucked too near a corner to actually be playable. A man with a Royals ball cap shot pool by himself. He scratched the cue ball while we watched him. After he took another shot, he glanced up at me and Robbie. He smiled. I whispered, "Aren't you going to ask them? Say you lost your shit?" Robbie shook his head and backed himself into me. He said, "No, let's get out of here, Austin." Robbie leaned on me, pushing me back. We quietly slid out the door. Nobody even watched us leave. And here's number 5. Robbie and I sat against the tailgate of the Explorer. We smoked cigarettes and watched cars on the highway. Robbie said he wished we'd have brought our skateboards with us. Skating would be good, I said. The alley behind Tally-Ho looked like a real clean place to skate. I never knew there were 4 gay guys in Waterloo, I said. The number involved making an assumption about the bartender. "It's Sunday," Robbie said. "I bet when this place gets really busy, there might be 5 or 6. "You're not going to be like that, Rob," I said. "I mean, all lonely and shit." "Is that what you think?" Robbie asked. "I'm pretty sure that is what I think," I said. Out on the highway, car slowed and then pulled into the parking lot at the opposite end near Fire at Will's indoor shooting range. It was a newer Honda Accord. The car drove along the front aisle of parking stalls and then turned left into a slot beside the other vehicles lined up at the tally-ho. Robbie and I watched from our hidden spot behind his old Ford. "And here's number 5, I said. The Honda's door opened freshly pressed slacks and shiny black loafers with dangly tassels that flapped from their insteps like beagle ears lowered mechanically from the bottom of the driver's door. Then Pastor Roland Duff got out, straightened and brushed off his trousers, shut the door, and entered the tally-ho. "Huh," I said. "Huh," Robbie answered. "Wonder what Pastor Roland Duff is doing here," I said. "Do you really wonder?" "I guess not." "He must be lonely," Robbie said. "I'll buy that, Robbie," I said. "But if Pastor Roland Duff is lonely, it isn't because he's gay. It's because he's a shit spoon." Robbie nodded thoughtfully and smoked. Then he said, "I'll buy that too, Austin." "I would like another cigarette, Robbie," I said. Robbie pulled the crumpled pack from his back pocket and handed it to me. He said, "Where did you get that word from? I admire it." "What?" I said. "Shit spoon?" "Uh-huh." "It was the name of the alien spacecraft that Eden 5 needs you for," I said. "You're making that up," Robbie said. "I know. I didn't pay attention to that shit spoon of a flick at all, Rob." Taking drags. "Were you scared in there?" I asked. "I wasn't scared," Robbie said. "I was." I said, "I could feel your heartbeat through the floorboards. That is because you found the bartender to be attractive." Was he attractive?" I asked. "Kind of," Robbie said. I smoked. "Do you think I'm queer, Rob?" I asked. "I don't care if you're queer," Robbie said. "Queer is just a word, like orange. I know who you are. There's no one word for that." I believed him. "I know I'm not orange," I said. "Kind of oatmeal-y," Robbie said. I always let Robbie read the books. He was the only one allowed inside Austin Andridge Zerba's history department. "Sometimes I'm confused," I said. "Actually, pretty much all of the time I am. I wonder if I'm normal. I think I might ask my dad about it, if he ever felt this way, or if maybe he still does sometimes, because I wonder if I'm queer or shit." "You should ask your dad, Porcupine," Robbie said. "Would you ask your dad?" "My dad doesn't give a shit about me," Robbie said. I took another drag. It made me feel weird the other night, but I kept thinking about you, and I think doing that means there's something wrong about me. I'm sorry. I won't do what I did ever again. Sorry, Austin. Nah. I said, it's not something to be sorry about. I just don't know what to do, Rob." "You worry too much," Robbie said. "I know." And then Robbie said, "I do love you, though." "Yeah, Rob, I know." I blew out a cloud of smoke. I tried to make it all perfect and cool like Robbie could, but it didn't work. So I said, "I love you, Robbie." I did not say two. Robbie said, "I know that, Austin. It is nice to hear you say it, though. I wish we brought our skateboards." "Uh-huh." I didn't know what to do. A visitor comes and goes. So we stood there and smoked our cigarettes down, and the paralytic coma that is Sunday night in a strip mall parking lot paved atop the scraps of a cornfield somewhere precisely located at the outskirts of Waterloo, Iowa, the whooshing excitement of passing cars once or twice every 5 minutes or so. The whooshing excitement of passing cars came once or twice every 5 minutes or so. And that was our day. You know what I mean. tally-ho turned out to be not so much a disappointment for Robbie as the sad realization of everything he expected to see. That is, except for Pastor Roland Duff showing up. But history does consistently prove that whenever guys go out to visit someplace they've never been before, they're going to see shit they did not expect to see. The age of discovery had come to Ealing, Iowa. Experiments and shit like that. Chris Cesarba never expected to see the frosted cupcake breasts of Eva Nightingale's pillowed mounds of peach ice cream body. He never thought he would see his father, who was also named Ansurge, slipping down into the cold green-black Atlantic with nothing more than a silver chain of St. Casimir jingling upon the Quaker oats whiteness of his still and empty chest. And as strange and discomforting as it was to watch the headmaster from Curtis Crane Lutheran Academy pull up in freshly pressed attire and casually step inside the tally-ho with the carriage of a man entering the most familiar place on this planet, what we saw next was even stranger. Out from the darkness of the back of us, loaded down with plastic bags, bundles of clothing, suitcases, and cardboard box, lashed by 3 bungee cords to a broken saddlebag frame that vibrated over the half-flat back tire, a squeaking and tottering rusted old bicycle wobbled and creaked its way into the lamplight. Hungry Jack had come to pay a visit. Hungry Jack got around for an old guy on a crooked bicycle. He's a real dynamo on the two-wheeler, I observed. I don't think he's a tally-ho kind of guy, Robbie said. You never know, I offered. Robbie took another puff and shook his head. You never do, Porcupine. It was Robbie who'd spoken to Hungry Jack in the past. I was afraid of the toothless old war criminal. Robbie was much braver than I was, except when it came to shit like breaking into Formatic to sell a consignment store in the middle of the night. Robbie had given Hungry Jack cigarettes in the past, and on occasion the two of them smoked together in Grasshopper Jungle while I worked inside Johnny McKeon's store. That was how Robbie found out all the history about Hungry Jack and the things he'd done in Vietnam. You want to know what happened? Hungry Jack said to Robbie. What happens? Robbie said. Hungry Jack said, you could do whatever you wanted to over there. What I would want to do is to get on a boat and come home, Robbie told him. No boats! Hungry Jack jumped up and down and repeated himself. No boats! No fucking boats home! What are you, a crybaby? I suppose I am a crybaby, Robbie said to him. You could do whatever you want, Hungry Jack said. Any kind of drug you like. Heroin, pot, heroin. You could find anything you wanted all the times. Drugs and fucks. I bet you'd like to fuck anything, wouldn't you? Wouldn't you? Robbie told him. I don't think I would like to fuck anything. Yes, you would fuck anything, Hungry Jack told him. No, I wouldn't, Robbie affirmed. You would too, Hungry Jack argued. Robbie told me this back and forth rally of counter-shot verbal tennis balls continued for several rounds. Oh, that's what we did, Hungry Jack said. Fucked everything. Fucked everyone who'd hold still long enough. We fucked the planet if we wanted to. And no boats. But you know what happened? I suppose you cooked your brain on dope, and a little while later your penis scabbed up and fell off in the dirty shit you fucked, Robbie ventured. As soon as one boy shoots, everyone starts shooting, Hungry Jack told Robbie. And then Hungry Jack said, then it's time to come home. Hungry Jack told Robbie about all the people who died in the village. Robbie told me. But I never talked to Hungry Jack before or since that day. Robbie told me the old man stories. So that night, Robbie, Breeze, and I stood there in the parking lot of the Tally-Ho, which was Waterloo, Iowa's one and only gay bar. I thought about fucking things. And while I thought about fucking things, and Robbie and I smoked cigarettes, we witnessed firsthand what happens to a person who swallowed a mouthful of Stan Preen pizza that had been contaminated by contained MI plague strain 412E. Here is what happened. Hungry Jack tottered towards us. The front tire of his bicycle jerked this way and that, but somehow the man kept rolling. Hungry Jack's eyes were fixed directly on Robbie and me. I'm actually going to stop there because that's 15 minutes. See you next time.